You have felt it watching men younger than you get named. Get praised, get proof, while you have nothing yet that looks like a rival. Most people read that gap as being behind, as a window quietly closing while everyone else moves ahead of you. But that is a coping mechanism, proof that you are measuring your clock against a race you were never actually running. What you feel is a system still compounding engineered delay, engineered depth, engineered force building toward a release you cannot see yet. And today, we take that system apart. This is the compounding delay, the law that anything built slowly compounds invisibly until the visible result looks sudden to everyone who wasn't watching. Compounding math applies here without exaggeration. A small, consistent gain repeated often enough eventually outproduces a large single effort, but almost all of that outproduction happens in the final stretch, invisibly. While the early stretch looks flat to anyone watching from outside, a man in year 3 of a craft looks identical to a man in year 1 from the outside. The difference is compounding underneath a flat surface, and the surface stays flat for far longer than most men can tolerate watching. He tracks a single private metric weekly, something no one else sees, and refuses to let a flat public result convince him the private number is also flat. He reviews that metric on a fixed day, not when he feels like checking it, because feeling is precisely what the flat years are designed to corrode. The average man quits when the outside stops changing. The strategist trusts the inside is still moving, but invisible progress only compounds. If a man survives the years where it looks like nothing, which brings us to the second law, this is the ego-death dividend. The principle that every early plan a man is forced to abandon pays him back later, once he stops mourning it. Jung's concept of the shadow explains the mechanism. The parts of an early identity a man rejects or fails at do not vanish. They get absorbed, and a fuller self eventually reintegrates them as material rather than as wounds. The man who succeeds late is rarely the man who had one plan and executed it. He is the man who buried 3 plans and used the wreckage as material for whatever came next. He runs a monthly review of his own abandoned versions, asking what each failed attempt actually taught him rather than what it cost him, writing the answer down instead of just thinking it. The habit only works in writing because memory edits failure into pure loss, if nothing forces it to name the residue. The average man treats a dead plan as proof he is behind. The predator treats it as inventory. But inventory is only useful to a man patient enough to wait for the right use for it. Which brings us to the third law. This is the Patience Moat. The recognition that most competitors are optimizing for the same short window, which means the man who is willing to operate on a longer one faces almost no competition at all. Game theory frames this as a repeated game. Players who expect to be in the game for decades make different moves than players betting on one big early round. And the decade-long player wins more often precisely because fewer people are playing that version of the game with him. The short window players are not weaker. They are simply solving a different problem, one with a nearer deadline and a smaller prize. He commits, in writing, to a minimum timeline for his current pursuit that is longer than feels comfortable to admit out loud, and he treats that number as fixed rather than as something to shorten under pressure. The average man abandons the long game the moment it stops paying out on the short game schedule. The strategist never agreed to the short game schedule in the first place. But patience without accumulating capability is just delay with a better name, which brings us to the fourth law. This is skill stacking, the law that a man who is merely good at 3 connected things is rarer, and often more valuable, than a man who is exceptional at 1. The mechanism is straightforward multiplication. Skills that reinforce each other do not add. They multiply because each new skill increases the leverage of every skill acquired before it. A man who spent his 20s scattered across disciplines that never quite added up to a single title was not failing to specialize. He was assembling components for a combination no specialist can replicate. He audits his current skills quarterly, not for what to master next, but for which two existing skills combined. No one else in his field has bothered to combine, and he treats that combination as the actual asset. The average man searches for the one thing he is best at. The winner searches for the combination no one else has assembled. But a rare combination still needs a moment to detonate, which brings us to the final law. This is the late ignition, the point where compounding skill, buried inventory, and earned patience all cross a threshold at once. And a result that took decades to build looks, from the outside, like it happened in a single year. Nietzsche's will to power is the honest name for what drives a man through the years before ignition. Not the desire for the applause at the end, but the refusal to let anything external decide whether the work continues. The years before ignition offer no evidence the fire will ever catch. That absence of evidence is precisely the filter that removes every man who needed proof before he would keep going. He sets one non-negotiable output he delivers regardless of recognition. The same output, whether anyone is watching in year 1 or year 11, measured against nothing but his own written standard. The average man needs proof the fire caught before he keeps feeding it. The emperor feeds it in the dark for as long as it takes. Drop the belief that you are behind because the outside hasn't changed yet. Define the private metric no one else will ever see you track. Adopt the habit of mining your failed plans for material instead of grief. Build a timeline longer than feels comfortable to say out loud. Start stacking skills that no one has bothered to combine. Refuse to let silence from the outside world decide whether the work continues. The clock was never against you. It was working for you the entire time. Become inevitable.